What's going on? What is it? Tuesday evening? Tuesday evening. The evenings go by really slow here at the Combine. Or I should say the days go by slow. The evenings go by a little bit quicker. People are out drinking. Maybe I'll join them in a little bit, but my subscribers are more important to me. My viewers are more important to me. We've got to talk about the 49ers. John Lynch spoke today. And finally, we have an announcement of a big promotion, a big little power structure official shift within the front office. Adam Peters left to Washington. That was already over a month ago. The 49ers have replaced their assistant general manager with an internal promotion. They've been promoted two guys, Tariq Ahmad and RJ Gillen. They are now the directors of player personnel for the 49ers. That was Adam Peters' title before he was promoted to assistant GM. So the next step up for these guys, for Ahmad and for Gillen, would be assistant general manager behind John Lynch, who has shown no signs of wanting to leave. Even when he's offered like $15 million by Amazon a couple of years ago to be a color broadcaster again, John Lynch said, no, I'd rather compete. I like a scoreboard. I like knowing that I'm working toward a win or failing toward a loss. And Lynch is the GM because of that. He doesn't want to leave. And his right-hand man, or as I should say, right-hand men at this point, those are important positions for the San Francisco 49ers. So it's going to be Ahmad and Gillen, guys who have been with the 49ers longer than Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have. These guys date back to the Trent Baalke era, and they successfully adapted to the 49ers' new regime. Most recently, Tariq Ahmad was the 49ers' director of college scouting, and RJ Gillen was the director of pro scouting. So Ahmad was in charge of all the scouts who were going out to schools on Saturdays and watching college football to get ready for the NFL draft. And Gillen was in charge of sending scouts out to other NFL games, mainly on Sundays, so the 49ers could be ready for free agency and so they could be ready to make trades, in-season trades. And they made some good ones. So Gillen, he's got some feathers in his cap. He's got Charles Omenihu, right? That was the 2021 trade. I don't think that RJ Gillen really had to scout Christian McCaffrey all that hard in 2022. I think everybody knew that he was good. But Jordan Willis in 2020. Emmanuel Sanders, I'm sure they had to do some advanced scouting on him in 2019. The draft record speaks for itself. It's a huge reason why Adam Peters was hired away to be the general manager in Washington. But Tariq Ahmad, the director of college scouting, deserves a lot of credit there. Bottom line is the 49ers have a damn talented roster. I think most people would tell you it's the most talented roster in the NFL. And the men who built this roster, they're in line for rewards. And these two guys have been rewarded with the director of player personnel title. There it is. Directors of player personnel. Now, John Lynch emphasized today when he told us the news that neither of these guys is a co-director of player personnel. There are two directors of player personnel. They want to make sure that both of these guys have the title that they deserve. And again, the next step up would be assistant general manager. And Lynch is proud that the 49ers have been able to promote from within. They like doing that. And it's a cultural thing for San Francisco. And Bill Walsh did the same thing. He built a culture where a lot of people, a lot of different teams wanted to hire his people away. That was the modus operandi of the league. It's just go poach the 49ers for their coaches and for their executives. And Lynch acknowledged that it's annoying, that there is a brain drain that the 49ers have to refill on an essentially annual basis at this point. Even after 2020, that was the year that they went 6-10, they had to replace Robert Saleh, right? Robert Saleh went to the New York Jets and took a lot of staff members with him. So the 49ers have set a standard that is respected around the league. People want to dip into what they've built. They try to take their coaches, they try to take their players, and they try to take their executives as well. But the 49ers have to be able to replenish that. And to replenish that, you have to make sure that you are building a self-sustaining culture while those guys are there and while the guys who are going to replace them with higher jobs in the future are literally picking up some of the tricks of the trade. So, for example, you look at somebody like RJ Gillen and you look at somebody like Tariq Ahmad, and you can look back at the early years of this regime in 2017 and 2018 when Shanahan and Lynch were first trying to build it. They have made it an emphasis for guys who aren't yet at the top executive level to have the opportunity and to be encouraged to speak at these draft meetings. By what I understand, a lot of NFL organizations are just going to have the top guys, the big fish, actually talking. They don't encourage the underlings to talk. Those guys can do the spreadsheet work. Those guys can do the tape work, and then they could fill out their reports and they can give it to their superiors, and their superiors are the ones who actually talk. One thing that's different about the 49ers culture than I think most of the NFL, based on what I've gathered, is that they're allowing people who are lower on the totem pole to speak at meetings, to be involved parts of the process. So that way that they're developing a voice, they are training for a potential promotion while they're still in that lower level role. So then when somebody like Adam Peters does leave to be the general manager of the Washington Commanders, you don't have to go outside the building to hire a new assistant GM or a new director of player personnel. You've gotten guys ready for that job naturally over the years. That's called a self-sustaining system. So the 49ers, all kinds of success drafting in the middle rounds and later. That goes back to the personnel department. That goes back to Adam Peters. It goes back to Tariq Ahmad. It goes back to RJ Gillen. And you reward Ahmad and Gillen with the promotion. And that's exactly what John Lynch and company did today, or they did this a while ago, but they haven't officially announced it until today. So that is the 49ers' new power structure. And it's the same power structure with different names, right? You keep things consistent. The structure has worked, and you make sure that you reward people who have developed within the structure. Kyle Shanahan talks about it a lot. You coach players, but you still have to coach coaches. John Lynch might be able to talk about it too. You coach coaches and you coach players, but you also have to coach executives. You want to keep this in-house if you can. Now, one thing that the 49ers probably won't keep in-house, but maybe will, is their defensive coordinator position. Last year, they went out of house for the defensive coordinator position because they did not feel that anybody on the current staff at that point in time had the necessary play calling experience to be an NFL defensive coordinator. That included Daniel Bullocks, who's the DB coach, but who had just been promoted from safeties coach. So he was still a little green at the time, still did not have the requisite experience for the 49ers. This season, they're interviewing Daniel Bullocks. They didn't interview him last year, so obviously he's taken a step up in their eyes as far as experience to be able to be the DC. But there's still a whole other group of candidates for this job. And make no mistake, the 49ers are taking their time to fill it. They're the only team with a coordinator opening right now in the NFL. So they're not competing with anybody else for some of these names. And one of the outside names that they have brought in is Brandon Staley. He was the Rams defensive coordinator in 2020. They had the top defense in football that year. And then he went to the Chargers to be their head coach over 21, 22, and 23 before being fired after the game against the Raiders. That was a complete disaster. They might have been behind by like 60 points in that game. But he was fired, and he's available now. And Staley, I mean, he had a successful defense with the Rams in 2020, but he ran a completely different system even there than the 49ers run now. And one thing that I thought was interesting based on what Kyle Shanahan said today, or John Lynch said today, Shanahan's not here in Indianapolis. John Lynch said, quote, "We don't want a wholesale departure from philosophy." But he did not rule out Brandon Staley upon a follow-up question. Staley ran a 3-4 with the Rams. He ran a 3-4 with the Chargers. I don't think that there's any overlap with the 49ers family of coaching. I mean, you look at somebody like Sebastian Joseph Day. He was a Brandon Staley guy in LA with the Chargers. Staley coached the defensive tackle who signed with the 49ers this year. Coached Sebastian Joseph Day with the Rams in 2020, brought Sebastian Joseph Day over to the Chargers after that. Staley got fired. I don't think it's a coincidence that Sebastian Joseph Day got cut shortly thereafter. 49ers signed him, but it turned out that Joseph Day just had way too much to learn to be able to convert to the 49ers system. He was a 3-4 defensive tackle that needed to play a very different brand of football to be the 4-3 penetrating, attacking type of defensive tackle that the 49ers needed him to be. And he ended up averaging like 5 to 10 snaps a game for San Francisco. That illustrates how different Staley's system is than what the 49ers are running. Now, Lynch said that he didn't rule out Brandon Staley, even though he said we don't want a wholesale departure. But he also had another really, really interesting quote. And I'm going to read this quote to you right now. This is one that I think sheds light on how the 49ers operate and maybe how a lot of teams in the NFL operate, because it's an information league. And I'm going to take a screenshot of this and toss it up for you so that you could read along with me. And in an information league, you're going to want to get every single advantage possible. And I think that not enough people are paying attention to this line from John Lynch. Quote, "It's an opportunity to look into different ways we can evolve. A lot of these ideas come up in interviews," end quote. So what Lynch is saying is that he is gleaning information in interviews that the 49ers can potentially use moving forward, even if they don't hire Brandon Staley. So we know that Staley runs a 3-4. We know he runs a system that really supported a player like Sebastian Joseph Day, who never was able to fully acclimate to the 49ers system over the course of this past season. So, and we know that the 49ers just brought in a guy, Steve Wilks, who tried to change a lot about how they run their secondary, was an outside the family hire. The secondary didn't end up tying in with the front seven, and the 49ers fired him after a year. So we can deduce that the 49ers, between that and what John Lynch said, we don't want a wholesale departure from what had worked before. We can deduce they don't want to make changes that are that big, yet they still interviewed a coach, a potential coordinator like Brandon Staley, who would make really big changes, presumably. How do those two things vibe? Well, they vibe with this right here. They work together because of this thought. They work together because you can collect information during an interview, even if you're not planning to hire the guy. And I think that Brandon Staley could benefit from that as well, because his name stays out there. The 49ers are a hot commodity right now, regardless of the fact that they lost the Super Bowl. If it's out there that you've been interviewed by Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers, it cannot be bad for your reputation, point blank. So Staley benefits in that way, and the 49ers benefit by being able to glean some information. Here's some thoughts from him. I know that Kyle Shanahan has a ton of respect for Brandon Staley based on what Staley's defense accomplished against the 49ers in 2022 on Sunday Night Football. It was an ugly, lower-scoring game. The Niners already had McCaffrey at the time. They were able to get the win against the Chargers on that Sunday night, but Brandon Staley's defense did give them some trouble. So if Shanahan is impressed by that and he wants to collect some information on that, why not? And Brandon Staley's available, why not go and interview him? Now, it's going to be a high bar to clear for Brandon Staley, and that bar is written underneath me. We don't want a wholesale departure. It's going to be a high bar to clear to convince the 49ers that he should be their defensive coordinator, but there is a benefit to potentially there's a potential benefit to interviewing him that lies outside of that purview. Other news today, the 49ers are willing to give Jauan Jennings a longer-term deal. Remember, it's first round tender, second round tender, original round tender, which would be the seventh round, and right of first refusal. The tender process is one way to hold on to a restricted free agent, or at least make a compelling case to do so. They can bypass that entire tender process by going ahead and giving Jauan Jennings a long-term deal. By long-term, I mean more than a year. Last year, the 49ers had Colton McKivitz as a restricted free agent. They just gave him a 2-year deal worth about $1.5 to $2 million annually. Jauan Jennings is going to be worth more than that. First-round tender is like $4.9 million. Or that's the second. First-round tender is worth like $6 or $7 million. Second-round tender is worth about $4.9 million. Original round tender is $3.1 million. That'd be a seventh-round tender. And right of first refusal is $3 million. I think Jennings is probably worth either the second or the first round tender if you're just to assign a monetary value on him. Now, the tender means that, assuming that you can't get a long-term deal done with Jauan Jennings outside the purview of the tender process, what the tender means is, say that you slap a second round tender on Jennings, you are offering a $4.9 million contract, but you're giving him a chance to negotiate with other teams. You have the right of first refusal if you're the 49ers. So say the Carolina Panthers and offer Jauan Jennings 2 years, $14 million after the 49ers have given him the $4.9 million tender. So that would be $7 million a year. Say that the 49ers saw the Panthers offer and We don't want to lose Jauan Jennings. They would have an opportunity to match the Panthers' offer and keep Jauan Jennings with them. But if they decide not to match the Panthers' offer, the Panthers would have to send the 49ers a second-round pick. That's what the second-round tender means. Now, the first-round tender would be higher. It'd be the $7 million, the price tag. The 49ers would then see if Jauan Jennings got any other offers that were higher than that. If they did, they would have a chance to right of refusal. They have a chance to keep Jennings for themselves. But if they let him walk, they would get a first-round pick in return. Original round tender, they would get a seventh-round pick in return. So the 49ers have a lot of avenues through which they can potentially keep Jauan Jennings. They can avoid this whole tender process if they just give him a long-term deal up front. I'm not sure if Jauan Jennings will want to take that. It will just depend on what the 49ers offer him and what he deems his market value to be. But this guy is an amazing blocker. He's unbelievably clutch. He's got hands of glue. Shanahan at one point even said that Jennings might be their best route runner. I don't know if he was saying that to motivate Brandon Ayuk, but he's talked about Jennings' separation ability, his ability to run routes. And the 49ers have obviously been thrilled with Jauan Jennings ever since he joined the team in 2020. Spent the season behind the scenes, I think practice squad in 2020. But by 2021, Jauan was off and running. Scored that big touchdown to tie the game against the Rams in Week 18. 2022, 2023. So he has 3 accrued years at the big league level. He was on the practice squad in 2020, and that's what makes Jauan Jennings a restricted free agent. You've got to have 3 accrued. You've got to have at least 4 accrued years to be an unrestricted free agent, and he currently only has 3. Other news is that the 49ers want a second tight end to pair with George Kittle. John Lynch went on a big spiel today about how Antonio Gates should be in the Hall of Fame. Now he thinks Antonio Gates is a Hall of Fame player. So he doesn't, I mean, everybody would want a Hall of Fame caliber player opposite George Kittle. I don't think the 49ers are looking for that, but they've been searching for years for a solid number 2 to pair opposite George Kittle. And, you know, they had Jordan Reed in 2020. They've had Charlie Werner every one of the past 3 years. Every one of the past 4 years. They've had Werner since 2020. So they've had Ross Dwelly on 6 or 7 one-year contracts, 6 one-year contracts. They might bring him back for a 7th. They drafted 2 guys last year, and Cam Latu and Braden Willis. It's obvious that they take this second tight end position seriously, but they really want somebody to stick. Jordan Reed might have been the best tight end 2 that they've had, but he got hurt. Injury history coming in, injury history going out of San Francisco. So having that second tight end, I think, can be really beneficial for the 49ers. That water was really beneficial for me. John Lynch also said nickelback, that's a position you have to address every year. They cut Isaiah Oliver. We all saw that coming. They benched him mid-season coming out of that bye week for the Jacksonville game. They weren't going to go back to Isaiah Oliver. That saved them over $2 million in cap space. Do they go after somebody in free agency? The player that was talked about today was Darrell Luter Jr., who missed a big part of his rookie season with a bone bruise in his knee. He impressed the 49ers down the stretch. Unfortunately, that punt from the 49ers or Kansas City hit him in the calf, and Ray McLeod was unable to recover it. So I'm sure that's all that people remember from 2 weeks ago. But Lynch, you talk about building a secondary. He's a former safety, and I got a big piece coming out on John Lynch tomorrow. John, just to give you a little bit of a teaser there, John Lynch, everybody's been congratulating him on the good season here, and it's been bugging him because he, just thinks about the Super Bowl loss. And he sat next to Andy Reid, John did, at a meeting today here at the Combine. That gave him more perspective. My piece tomorrow is all about John Lynch, how he's handling defeat, how he's trying to reframe his mind into area proper perspective so he can rally the troops for another run at it in 2024. And he's had a really, really interesting experience here at the Combine. A little bit of a teaser for you is that John Lynch actually played on a Tampa Bay team in the early 2000s that lost 2 NFC title games in a row to the Philadelphia Eagles, coached by Andy Reid. year 3 is when the Buccaneers got by Andy Reid. They beat him at Veterans Stadium. It was a frigid day. It was the first time the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had ever won a playoff game in freezing weather. And they went on, they beat the Raiders in the Super Bowl. So Lynch has the experience of somebody who has lost multiple times in high stakes playoff games to Andy Reid, of all people. And then he was sitting next to Andy Reid today at the combine during one of the meetings that the NFL runs for executives and coaches. And it's given Lynch that perspective. So if you want to read about the 49ers leadership and how they're navigating these tough times right now, and these are undoubtedly tough times, you can go ahead and check it out on The Athletic coming out tomorrow. But anyway, John Lynch, obviously Hall of Fame safety, knows how to build a secondary. He's done a good job in that regard with the 49ers. He thinks they're going to need another body to come in and nickelback. I don't think he likes the status quo with Diamara Lenore having to slide inside and then playing Ambry Thomas on the outside. Maybe Darrell Luter is able to step up. Maybe Samuel Womack is able to step up. That's what the offseason is for. It's for guys like that to step up. But I think the 49, when he said today, when John said you can never have too many of those guys, DBs, I think he wants to continue infusing that position with talent. And they do have 11 draft picks. They also want John Feliciano back. I think you could never have too many good offensive linemen. And Feliciano played well this year. The big controversy with him happened after the season when he got too drunk and then he was hungover and he started tweeting about offensive line assignments and he threw Spencer Burford under the bus while he was trying to protect Colton McKivitz. Then John came out the next day and he was like, sorry, man, I was hungover. So obviously the 49ers are all about protect the team. That's posted on their locker room wall. But he apologized and he said he took it head on like a man. And he said, sorry, man, I was hungover to Spencer Burford. And John Lynch said they appreciated the remorse from John Feliciano. And to be honest, this was the number 4 rated run blocker while he was the starting guard for the 49ers over the back half of the season. It's not a guy that you just want to let walk. They had him on a 1-year deal, and I think they may try to get him back on a 1-year deal moving forward. You just trying to fortify your options if you're San Francisco. Who knows what the draft can bring in? Somebody like Graham Barton out of Duke, I talk about as one of your quintessential versatile linemen, played both left and right tackle at Duke. That means he could play right guard for the 49ers. They're talking about him as a potential center. Maybe somebody you could fill right in at right guard, maybe even right tackle, but can eventually play center. Maybe you trade up to try to get a tackle if you really like one of those guys this year. Even last year, I was saying this might be the year the 49ers have to draft a tackle, somebody who might eventually be able to flip over to the left side and replace Trent Williams. Big Trent's coming back in 2024, but he's 35. You got to think about the longer-term future if you're the San Francisco 49ers. Got a couple more pieces of news from today. Dre Greenlaw's Achilles surgery went very well, according to John Lynch. And this was the original news. Tariq Ahmad and RJ Gillen to replace Adam Peters. Lynch also really happy the 49ers are set with Brock Purdy. I mean, I love giving perspective. Last year, I'm sitting at this event, different hotel last year, but I'm still sitting at this event. And we didn't know anything about Brock Purdy's potential return date. I mean, he had, I think, just undergone surgery. Maybe he hadn't. I'm trying to remember when he underwent surgery, because I remember there was a big update on that at the owners' meetings. So I'm pretty sure that he had at least gotten, that surgery was delayed, though, for Brock Purdy for a while because of swelling. It might not have been until March. In fact, I don't think it was until March because the 6-month mark after the surgery was the season opener in Pittsburgh. And we're on February 27th right now. We're still well over 6 months away from the 2024 season opener. So just for perspective, as we're sitting here at the NFL Combine last year, Brock Purdy hadn't had his surgery yet. This is coming the year after Jimmy Garoppolo had to have shoulder surgery at the time of the NFL Combine and completely derailed his market. He was ready to go by the start of the season, but it completely derailed a trade market. So the 49ers have been derailed by a surgery to a quarterback the year prior. It certainly looked like they're going to be derailed by a surgery to a quarterback in 2023. But back came Brock Purdy with a vengeance, and he took over the league last year. He was ready to go by week 1. Patrick Peterson did not have fun defending against Brock Purdy in week 1 at Pittsburgh. So, just perspective. We're at the combine again. That's what the case was last year. It was an unpredictable ride. I think we can all evaluate this with some level of intelligence when we know that that's how everything went down following the collective freak out last season. All right, I'm going to open this up to 49ers Q&A. I'm going to kick my legs out and chill as we move into the 49ers Q&A. You can have a look at this quote one more time. I really like this quote. And I have kicked my leg out. It's good. Stretching out the foot, stretching out the leg. I have my laptop, as you can tell, here on the hotel couch. I have it on one of those ottomans, and I am relaxing as we enter 49ers Q&A mode. Make the screen a little bit bigger. Check to see if Mike has said anything. He hasn't, and go into the comment section. What's going on at the combine tomorrow? I think it moves into prospect mode at this point. We've had all the coaches who are here, which was not that many of them, combined with the GMs who are here, which I think is all of them, speak over the past 2 days. Those of you who are watching a little bit earlier saw John Lynch and Big Dom handshake, dap it up, all that good stuff. So everybody's on good terms now, I guess, of the offseason. All the in-season drama is behind us. So that happened with John Lynch and Big Dom. Lynch and Nick Sirianni were talking at the same time, podiums right next to each other. Tomorrow it's going to move to a lot of the players, and tomorrow's Wednesday. By Friday, I think it moves to the quarterbacks. So everybody's waiting for Caleb Williams to hit the podium. That's about all that's going on at the combine right now. Yes, Lynch actually was very complimentary about Jair Brown's rookie season. So that's a good question. John Lynch, I mean, they're so impressed with Jair Brown. They think he carries himself like a CEO. They were more impressed with Jair Brown's interview here at the combine, I think. I think it was at the combine. It was either that or during one of the visits to the 49ers. But either way, they were more impressed with one of Jair Brown's interviews last year than they've been with anybody's interview. And then, I'm impressed when I interview the guy. You go into the locker room, he carried himself as a 10-year vet this year. Really polished. He's got that deep voice too. But, really polished guy on top of his stuff. You can tell he led college football. He led all draft-eligible players last year in interceptions over the previous 2 years of college football. 10 picks. He had a pick in the Super Bowl as a rookie. Not easy to get a pick in the NFL. It's not easy to get 10 in 2 years of college football. So I think he's the right place at the right time kind of guy just because he knows what he's doing. He studies. The safeties of the future are Jair Brown and Talanoa Hufanga for the 49ers. They're going to get Hufanga back from the ACL tear. I don't know what Gibson wants to do. I didn't ask John about that today. Gibson's going to be 34 next year. Hufanga's feeling good. Saw him at the Super Bowl. So we'll see. We'll see, but I think Jair Brown has got a future with this organization. They're very, very high on Jair Brown and his maturity that he has shown on and off the field. Joey says, you get the feeling that Lynch could really smooth things over with almost anyone. It's always seemed to me that he's got that gift for people. And John Lynch might be the main reason why this 49ers building has grown as powerful as it has and is as stable as it has. There's a lot of armchair basement online commenters, people who make videos that have thrown barbs John Lynch's way, but they don't understand business. They don't understand organizations. They don't understand the need for actual alpha leadership, somebody that exerts that even keel over an organization. And John Lynch has absolutely done that for the 49ers. Kyle Shanahan has brought great leadership to San Francisco as well, but he's cut from a little bit of a different cloth. He's going to be zoomed in on X's and O's. He's going to want to watch film all the time. Kyle Shanahan's absorption into some of the X's and O's, which makes him such a magnificent game caller, might take away from his sense of emotional groundedness during some of these games and in the immediate aftermath of them. And I think John Lynch is the perfect force to stable things out. These guys are a dynamic duo. Shanahan's a genius in one regard, and Lynch is a genius in human interaction with people. He has the aura, he has the respect, he has the intelligence to be able to be that good people person. So my article that comes out about John Lynch on The Athletic tomorrow morning, I hope you don't miss it, talks about how Lynch's experience walking around the hallways here at the combine and how he's dealing with people, giving him condolences for the Super Bowl loss, because it's his job to handle not just the roster building, but the human aspect. He's got to check in on guys. He's got to get guys to pick themselves up off the mat. He's got to make sure the building is not depressed for too long after losing Super Bowl 58. The 49ers have lost 2 NFC championship games and 2 Super Bowls in 5 years. So three out of those 4 losses happened before this season. Yet they still found their way back to the Super Bowl this season. There's so many teams in NFL history who have seen one of those losses, one of those brutal championship game or Super Bowl losses, and we've never heard from them again. It is not hard to fall off of a cliff after you lose a brutal playoff game. Yet the 49ers have lost a lot of these brutal games, and the first 3 of those losses, Super Bowl 54, NFC title games in 21 and 2022 seasons, they haven't fallen off a cliff. I think a lot of that's credit going back to John Lynch. Daniel says, ouch. I don't know who he's saying ouch to. Here's a question. Do you sacrifice run blocking for excellent pass protection in the draft? Got to protect Brock at all costs, in my humble opinion. I think that in a roundabout way, good run blocking is good pass protection. Because if you run the ball well, you can minimize the amount of dropbacks. And that the best pass protection that you could get is not having to block at all, right? So I don't think it's a black and white question of prioritizing a guy that's good at run blocking versus prioritizing a guy that's good at pass blocking. You're always looking for a good balance, and you're always thinking about these things holistically. Do I think the 49ers might trade down and out of the first round? There's a lot of value in the 49 range. John Lynch said the same thing. He thinks there's a lot of good value in the middle rounds of the draft, but he also mentioned they're excited to have pick number 31. I don't know. And I think they may not know until the draft actually happens there in the first round. So let's just keep our eyes peeled. And so many of these decisions are in the moment decisions that you strategize for just in case certain dominoes fall a certain way. You're going to act in that way, but you can't ever fully prepare for them. Do I see the 49ers being more pass heavy next season? No. I think they like the ratio. I think Brock Purdy was the most efficient quarterback in football. Christian McCaffrey was the rushing leader. This was the top offense in the league. Whatever they're doing, maybe the percentages are slightly different in either direction, but I think that whatever they're doing right now is working well in terms of their personnel and what the league is showing them defensively. Go for broke. Watch them trade up in the middle of the first round just to confuse us. Yeah, maybe for an offensive tackle. I don't know. There's a reason why I like analyzing these things after they happen, because everybody's going to try to sound smart and they're going to look like idiots over the course of the next 2 months until we know what the 49ers are actually doing. Yeah, I don't think that Shanahan is aiming for this many pass plays a game, but I think that it's a good sign when they hit that pass run balance. They're 30 passes, 40 runs. They're probably doing a lot right. You can't get into a mentality where I'm trying to run 30 passes, I'm trying to run the ball 40 times. No, those are byproducts of playing good complementary football. The box score normally looks that way if you do things right within the framework of this system. Oops. I accidentally removed, I did not mean to do that, Joey. Sorry. I accidentally removed Joey Nichols from the chat. That was my mistake. I was trying to put his comment up on the screen Mike, can you get Joey Nichols back in here? I'm really sorry, Joey. He's probably watching right now. I hope there's a way to. It says Joey Nichols has been banned and their comments were removed. I totally screwed that up. This is terrible. Joey Nichols is one of our best commenters on here. This is unbelievable. I was trying to put his comment up on the screen, and I don't know how to get it back. I don't know how to reinstate him. This is actually really bad. There's like no button to reinstate this guy. I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. I hope Mike is watching, and I hope Mike is going to try to figure that out because this is not good at all. I swear I'm using StreamYard and there's no button here. So I apologize. I got bamboozled. Well, I mean, I wish I could say that I did prank Joey, but I accidentally banned him from the chat. There's a lot of people that have deserved to be banned, and Joey Nichols is not one of them. I think Joey can hear me. I just think that he's banned from the chat. I don't think that he's banned from the video. I think he's banned from the chat. Again, I apologize, and let's everybody free Joey. Let's start the chant. Let's free Joey. Hopefully, Mike is working on it right now, because I don't know what to do. So, Romeo Carter sounds like the 49ers season. Yeah, this went downhill. This went downhill really quick. All right, I'm ready for more questions. I hope he's still in the chat. We're trying to get him back. We'll figure something out at some point. It was it was a misclick for me. I wish they would ask you to confirm something like that. Would a tight end converted to a tackle be a good fit for the O-line? It has been in the past. Joe Staley was a tight end converted to a tackle. Mike McGlinchey was a tight end converted to a tackle, although the pass protection was a little bit lacking with Mike McGlinchey. He was a really good run blocker. They want tackles who can move. I get it. But also, you don't want to sacrifice too much in terms of anchor down pass protection, especially since you've got a franchise quarterback like Brock Purdy. I haven't watched much Cody Schrader tape. That's a good. My tape watching basically starts at the combine because I get to talk to some of the guys here and goes up until the draft. So that's a good one to watch. Obviously, I've seen the big pedigree names, Brendan Rice and Luke McCaffrey. Those are going to be popular names here at the NFL Combine. I don't know what else to say about that. I really, really like delving more into these guys once I know who the 49ers are picking, so we're not wasting our time on 20 different guys who they're not going to pick. I'll generally come out with one mock draft, which is not a guess. I kind of use, I mean, every mock draft is a guess, but I use some of the intel that I have, and I usually get one or two of the players right. That's going to be a goal this year based on some of the visits and all that, but that's all I could really say about this stuff right now. Smash the like button, says Mike. Guy, I got Latu right last year. That was fun. Mike points out Cam Latu. Hey, Mike, can you get Joey Nichols reinstated? I would love if he was back in the chat. I feel really, really bad right now. Unban Joey. There's a whole movement going on. I really wish I knew how to do it. I really do. There must be like a setting, and I would think there's a setting in StreamYard. Mike is on it right now. He's checking. All right. Is he back? Yeah, there he's back. Yes. Oh, good. So how was it being banned? I want to hear more from him. What was it like being in the dark for 5 minutes? This is the kind of entertainment that we need. It's only been 2 weeks and 2 days since the 49ers lost the Super Bowl. I'm sitting in a hotel room in Indianapolis. I could be drinking my face off outside like a lot of people are. I decided not to, and then I actually banned one of our best commenters. So since I'm here, since I did that, I would love to hear from Joey about how the last few minutes went. Joey Nichols has a statement. Thanks to all of my supporters who worked tirelessly to free me. We got you out of jail. We got you out of jail, Joey. I'm really happy. I was leading the charge, but I also put you in jail. So I'm sorry about that. I guess a right does fix a wrong. Well, is it worth using a late round pick on a QB to back up Brock? If you think that QB is going to be ready to be a legitimate backup in year one, we didn't have time to ask Lynch everything. So I'm really curious to see how the 49ers approach free agency this year. But last year it was imperative for them to go out and get a veteran quarterback, and it was Sam Darnold last year. They got Brandon Allen too, but it was important for them to go get a veteran because they didn't want to be left out to dry in case Brock Purdy got hurt. And there were a couple instances where Sam had to play this past year. They didn't want to have a project behind Brock Purdy. They're in win now mode. And what the 49ers said is part of being in win now mode is having a veteran backup QB2 ready to go at any given time. They had it. They had it last year. So do they do the same thing this year? I think this is even more of a chips in the middle of the table situation. And I think they have that extra cap space to have that luxury. Maybe it means they can bring Darnold back for a year. I think he's probably, if he has a chance, is going to want to go somewhere where he has a chance to compete for the starting job. Obviously, he doesn't have that chance with the 49ers. So the problem with a rookie is that it could take a while for him to be game ready. And this is a win now team that needs somebody who can get right in there and help them win in case Brock Purdy gets hurt. I think that Ayuk does want to stay, but ultimately what Ayuk wants doesn't decide this. What the 49ers want decides this. Ayuk is under contract. Ayuk is potentially going to be a recipient of the franchise tag. The 49ers, if they want badly enough, they can keep Ayuk under team control for the next 3 years, which is a prime stretch of his career. He's basically forced to play for the 49ers. Now, does anybody want it to get that unpleasant? No. Like, obviously, the 49ers don't want it to get to there, but a lot of people speak as if this is a player's choice, and it's not. This is ultimately in the hands of the team. Yeah, players like the franchise tag. Teams don't like it because you don't have flexibility to move the money around with the cap. I get it, but it's still a tool at the team's disposal. And it gives the 49ers ultimate control in this situation. As ABI says, it's business. As Eric Gomes says, the Niners hold all the cards. There's this like movement on Twitter acting like players can decide where to go, and they really can't. They can make things uncomfortable for a team, and then the team may not want to deal with the discomfort and they decide to move on from a player. But it's really not like, oh, I'm going to point to this team, I'm going to go there. It's just not the reality, especially for players outside of Aaron Rodgers, right? Rodgers might have been a little bit more of an exceptional situation. All right, guys. 45 minutes sounds like a good length for a show. It was a fun day today. I'm going to sign off at the NFL Combine. Everybody free Joey Nichols. Oh, he has been freed, so that's good. We had a fun moment on the show. Fun 5 minutes. Glad that Joey's back. Hopefully he doesn't disown the show. Hopefully he's back for the next one. More from the NFL Combine tomorrow. It's been a fun week so far. I'll talk to you all very soon.